Morning, folks. Milk Money back with y'all again today. A lot of people have asked me about how to raise pigeons. It has went so far as people asking me, hey, do y'all take them down to the horse track and let them fly around the horse track, or do y'all tie a stringer in their leg and fly them around and around like June bugs? What is pigeon racing and how does it work? So I'm going to try to do a quick breakdown just to hopefully help you understand a little bit more about it. Maybe make you want to get into it. There's actually a couple of good movies I'll go over in a few minutes also. Show y'all those. And maybe, just maybe, you might want to get in this with us. If you do, hey, I'm going to have a giveaway here before long. So maybe you can get some good birds from here, or I'll show you some other places to get birds. I've actually got a video on that, a few videos back, where to get birds at, that kind of thing. So anyway, but to help you understand more about pigeon racing, I'm going to try to explain it on the whiteboard back here for a second. Hopefully I can make it make sense to you. So let's just try to see what we can do. First of all, is we always race back to our home loft. Let's just say this is my loft right here. Let's just say that we got Tim and John's loft right here. Let's just say Tim and then John type deal. And this is me over here. All right, what we do is the club gets together. We have a designated turnout spot. We'll decide if we want to try to race 100 miles, 200 miles, and we'll set dates on that, old bird, young bird, and all that kind of thing. That's more for another video. But what we'll actually do is we'll have our turnout spot, and normally it's within usually around 100 miles from our lofts. Now, I said me and Tim are about the same here, but like I said, Johnny's going to be a little bit shorter distance. So if we turn the birds out, most likely Johnny's birds would always make it home first because he has a shorter distance to get to. It makes sense. So we can't do that. What we do is we actually do fly everybody's birds together. The night before the race, we'll get together at our little clubhouse, wherever that's at. We basket all of our birds into one basket. We'll have someone that will drive those birds down to that turnout spot. First thing the next morning at a certain time, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, whatever we agree on, they released all the birds at one time. But like I said, on average, you would think that Johnny's would get back before Tim's and mine, so that wouldn't work. But what we do is we GPS right here from where my loft is. I said, where John's loft, John and Tim and all that stuff. We GPS that from my loft to that turnout spot. From his loft, turnout spot, from his loft down here. And instead of doing it by miles, what we do is we'll break it down into yards. You can go to the airport to have them do that for you. And they'll actually go from yards, almost down to the exact yard, from my trap to, let's just say, the corner of the Cracker Barrel at the so-and-so exit. The corner parking lot of the Cracker Barrel so-and-so exit. So that driver knows that he needs to be in that general direction each time, or that general spot. And like I said, the corner, wherever you're going to turn them loose at Cracker Barrel, McDonald's, whatever, open field, whatever. He wants to try to get in the same area every time instead of going to the other end of the field or the other side of the parking lot, unless he absolutely has to. We'll try to get the same deal. Well, our lofts never move. We leave our lofts right where they're at. So what it is we all have race clocks, which is a whole nother video itself. I'll show y'all mine later, try to show you a little bit how it works. But that race clock, we'll all have them synchronized. So at 7 o'clock that morning, when they all get released at the same time, well, if my birds make it back, let's say 100-mile flight, my birds takes 4 hours. So my birds get back at 11 o'clock. Well, let's just say that Tim's come back at 11:15. Well, John's gets back at like 10 o'clock because he lives 30, 40 miles closer. Well, obviously, Johnny would win that race. So we can't do that. What we do is we break it down into how long, if this is like 11:03, 11 o'clock, 11:19, whatever, 12 o'clock, whatever we do. We break it down into the yardage, and we'll do the time and see which one can actually fly let's just say mine did 1,277 yards per minute. Let's say yards. Whoop, sorry, yards per minute. And then over here, he lives a little bit further out or whatever. So his actually flew, let's just say, 1,264 yards per minute, whatever. And let's see, Johnny's, even though his got back faster, Johnny still ended up flying only 1,155 yards per minute. Well, obviously on mine, because I have more yards per minute, my bird flew the fastest, if that makes sense. My bird flew more yards than theirs did per minute, obviously, blah, blah, blah. So I would actually be the winner of that one. Now, I may have another bird that doesn't come in until, let's just say at 1 o'clock. I just happened to have that one bird that was super that day and the wind was behind him and he come in early. So this other bird may only fly 1,048 yards a minute or something of that nature. So there again, of course, Johnny and Tim would both come, their birds come in front of that one. That's how you get first, second, third place, all the way down the line to how many birds we flew out. So we do not take our birds to a certain place except for the club, the night before, our clubhouse, where we meet at. We'll meet there. We basket all the birds together. Like I said, they drive out to a certain point. First thing the next morning, they give them a little bit of water. Sometimes they might give them a little bit of food. We don't know. That's all according to what everybody agrees on. We'll definitely give them water that morning so they're not dehydrated. Give them a little bit, wet their whistle. And when he turns them loose, now the problem is, a little trick to it is if I fly, let's just say 10 birds, and Tim flies 40 birds, and Johnny only flies 3 birds. The birds happen to have this pack mentality to where they want to stay in a flock together, a pack deal. So when they all come from here and they start back up, they may go up a certain way and then realize, hey, I'm all the way over here, but my home's over here. At this point, my birds may break off from his and come back to where that loses time for me. And the same way is, even though Johnny and him live in the same direction, Johnny's 3 birds may stay with his 40. And once he gets home and his birds start trapping in, Johnny's birds realize, hey, this is not my house. At that point in time, they'll turn around and fly back to Johnny's, and he loses time there too. So that's one of these tricks that some of these older people, they realize, and it's not really a trick. It's nothing you do that's cheating. It's just that the birds themselves, you have an option to fly 100 birds. Most time the clubs will have a cutoff. You may be only able to fly 40 birds per race, 50 birds per race. You may only be able to fly 10, whatever the cutoff is that everybody agrees to. That's why we have the club have votes. But you have the option, if you want to get more birds and fly 40 birds the same way Tim did, or only fly 10 the way I did, or fly 3, whatever, that's your choice. But be aware that those birds, most of the time, will try to stay with those birds. That's just their mentality. Until they get home, they'll come back. The same way, I said, if mine goes and then all of a sudden realizes, hey, we're going the wrong direction, they may break off, come back home, but that's valuable time that mine has lost going up and around. Now, mine may directly, come home. It's going to your bloodlines too. Certain bloods, hey, they're like, hey, I don't care who is flying that direction. I know my house is over here. So they're going to go ahead and start coming on home. So I may be able to pull half of his birds with my birds. They may decide to break off from his, or all of his birds may follow my birds to a certain point and decide, hey, that's not my way home either. They'll break off. In the same way with Johnny, Johnny's 3 may follow my 10 back to my house and then have to fly all the way back to his house. You never know. And then there again, his birds may break right off the bat and realize, hey, I'm not going with them. I'm my own leader. And they'll go straight on up to his house. And there again, Johnny may end up flying a 1,700 yards a minute. It may whoop all of us. You never know. There again, that's where you're going to have like some of your longer distance birds and some of your sprint birds. If the race for me is 100 miles, and let's just say it's 115 for Tim, but it's only like, let's just say 60 for Johnny. Well, if Johnny's got a good sprint bird that doesn't have to hold out the extra distance, he may enter that sprint bird in that race, same way in the Olympics. You don't have the marathon runners and the 100-meter dash. It just doesn't happen. You put your fastest people in the fastest races. You put your endurance people in the longer races. Well, the same way, he may have some birds that can fly 500 miles, no problem, but they're not that fast. They're used to laying back and just flying, slow but steady. Where you may have these other birds that just all out, give it their all. So if he can get back, like I said, sprint birds, because everybody's not going to live an exact 100 miles from your turnout point. There's no way to do that. 200 miles, whatever. For instance, my race club right now is an hour and a half, 2 hours south, Alabama. I'm up in center Alabama, in the central. So if we, like last time, I think they raced out of a little bit north, straight up. So Calera was about 30 miles from where I live. So that would only been a 30-mile race for me, to where it would have been a 100-mile race for the rest of them, because I was way further north than all of them in the same way. So that would have given me an advantage if I had those good sprint birds. I only had to race 30 miles instead of 100. I only had to race like 70 miles instead of 200, this, and that. So it would have been an advantage for me also on that sprint bird deal. So, but anyway, I hope this kind of sums it up for you. Gives you the general deal here, because we don't tie strings under the legs. We don't do this. We don't do that. Now, some of your other competitions, your polar rollers, polar tumblers, not rollers, and stuff like that, they actually take different places, because those birds stay strictly on the ground. They'll do backflips on the ground, and they just judge how far they actually do the flips before they stop. And that's how they judge their competition, who has the bird that will flip the furthest without stopping, and blah, 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 blah. Now, like Birmingham rollers, you still have to fly them at your loft at home, because you can't take them off somewhere else. They're homed in your loft. When they get done flying, they will trap back into your loft. So you can't take them over here, whatever. You still got to fly them here. You'll have your judges that come to your house and actually judge your birds as you're flying them there. But some of the other stuff, you'll have your show birds that you'll take different places. Of course, you don't fly those. Those are in cages, that kind of thing. But homing pigeons, you'll always have to fly out of your own loft, because once they home in here, if you try to take them over here to Tim's house and take them to a race and fly them back to his, they're not going back to his house. They either come back to your house or they won't come back at all. Once they're home, then that's locked in their brain. That's for life. I've saw birds before that have been rehomed for 3 years that would still fly back 200 miles if they ever got out of the loft, would still go back. I live in Alabama. The particular bird I was talking about actually went back to Kentucky 3 times. Got out the first time on accident. He was there about a year, got out, went back to Kentucky. The guy calls him, "Hey, I got your bird." He ships it back to him. He gets out about a year later. So he's been there 2 years now, gets out about a year later on accident. Guy calls him a couple days later, "Hey, I got your bird." Ships it back to him. He had him married for about 3.5, 4 years total, and he decided to let him go. He's like, "I got plenty of babies, this, and this." He should be homed in at my loft by now. And that's another way you can actually try to rehome a bird, is using their babies as comeback bait, I guess you call it. But anyway, so he turns him loose. He's almost 4 years, 3.5, 4 years, and he goes back to the same house in Kentucky. The guy calls him like, "Hey, I got your bird." He's like, "Just keep it. I've got enough babies off of it. It's not worth me paying more shipping. Just keep the bird." So stuff like that happens. But like I said, we fly out of our own lofts. We meet at the clubhouse. They drive them to the turnout point. Next morning, turn them loose. They fly back to ours. We set up our race clocks, which I'll show you in another video. We have our race clocks, and they wear special bands on their legs. So when they come back into my trap on my loft, that clock will register that band and lock it in. And we get back with the secretary, president, race club, whoever, and they'll calculate up the distance, time, and all that. and figure out how many yards per minute that bird actually flew. So anyway, I don't want to keep this video going for 2 hours. So that's the basics of it. If you have any questions, feel free to comment down below. I will try my best to explain anything else about the racing deal you have questions about. I will show y'all the clock in another video here soon, I hope. But anything else you want to know, feel free to ask me, and I will try my best to explain it in another video for y'all. Don't forget to like, subscribe. I enjoy making these videos. Hopefully y'all like watching them. Anything else you need, just let me know, and I'll try to do whatever I can for y'all. Y'all have a good day.